All right, all right, all right. We are live for the morning check-in, Wednesday, the 28th day of the month of February. And wow, what a lot of interesting news happening right now. And as always, man, looking forward to connecting. Sorry about running late. Just trying to put together the last minute things on my end, but hope everyone is doing well. Let me know via the chat if my audio is going smooth, as well as let me know if the video and everything is flowing smoothly so we can get into this morning's discussion. And yeah, so I had to, definitely I have to comment on, Bitcoin just because it's captivating all the headline attention these days. And, outside of all the problems, we're facing on a much bigger scale, it looks like this rally right now is definitely getting a lot of people's attention and distraction, yes, but then again, for those who've been waiting for activity like this, it's one of them things of "I told you so," yada yada yada. And I actually, before I dive in, I have maybe eight, nine, 10 tabs open of things that I want to share. But before I do that, let me make sure I acknowledge my peoples out here. Let me know who's watching. Let me know in the chat. If you don't mind, hit that thumbs up button. Show your support for the channel. And we'll try to make this a smooth and enjoyable and very valuable, content rich live stream this morning. That's the goal. Okay, so what I want to begin. Okay, yeah. So let me see. I'm trying to figure out how I want to begin this. Man, I got so many ways I can approach this. Let me see here. Let me check in with the chat real quick. These morning check-ins, the preparation is a lot different than in the evenings. Just because it's the beginning of the day, take care of a couple things on my end here to try to plug in. Got me scrambling, and I enjoy the being on my toes. But anyway, we got PM Galleria checking in. We got Boots on the Ground checking in. Appreciate you guys, man. Don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button. Hopefully, get more people involved. Looks like the chat is running a little bit behind, but we will make the most out of this opportunity. So before I move forward, let me just get into the good news, the real good news of the day. And that happens to be the actual good news from the Word of God. And let me bring it on the screen right here. And then we'll just move right along from here. So let me get some things settled. And hopefully, you guys are finding value in starting your day off in the good book or in getting snippets from the good book, that I say. Prevailing peace for February 28th. It says, "You will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. Trust in the Lord always, for the Lord God is the eternal rock." And that is from Isaiah 26:3 from the New Living Translation. And it goes on to say, "Your unbelief tears you apart. It may feel natural and reasonable because you see no evidence of relief for your situation. But the thoughts that arise because of your doubts will wear you out, discourage you, cause you to act rashly, and limit you from perceiving God's perfect work on your behalf." From Isaiah 64:6 says, "Yes, your situation may appear disheartening, but you must remember your help comes from the unseen, from the Lord your God who accomplishes all that concerns you." Psalms 138:8 says, "So when the question floods in, turn your mind to him, because that is where your battle is won." According to 2 Corinthians 10:5 says, "Speak faith in him, praise him for his unfailing and mighty attributes. Give thanks that he will lead you to triumph. And not only will he conquer your fears, but he will give you the spirit of power, love, and discipline that will keep you in perfect peace." And that's from 2 Timothy 1-7. And it says here, "Lord God, I will trust you. Help me fix my thoughts on you so I can enjoy your steadfast prevailing peace." All right, my people, that is that good word of the day. Hopefully it is a blessing to you as it adds to your spiritual bank account. All right, let's get into the primary subject matter. I saw read some of the comments. People were like, "Mike, make sure you comment on Bitcoin." I'm like, okay, I can't ignore it, just because at this current moment, all attention is drawn towards Bitcoin. But one thing I do want to highlight, in a sense, is this little short clip uh, from a famous financial guru that potentially could have. I'm not saying he has, but could have led a lot of people astray in not even acknowledging the probability that this new financial asset class could be a way, and I say could, I put everything in quotes, could be a way, because it's still untested, unproven. I still think, as we get down the line, there will be some things that'll really expose the digital asset space. But then again, I think all this is a part of a much greater plan than a lot of people are willing to admit. But anyway, here's a video I want to share with you real quick. And just I thought this was timely that somebody shared this. But
our people and all you gold people all pissed off at me. So let's just go ahead and add you Bitcoin people to the mix. You're stupid. You're going to lose your money. Be pissed at me. You shouldn't have put money in something wacko like that. People, money, and handling your personal investments is not difficult.
All right, so we got Mr. Dave Ramsey calling people stupid, and I think this was shared initially when Bitcoin was $500, almost a decade or damn near a decade ago. And so, or less than a decade ago. But anyway, here we go. So let's get into today's headlines, man. Lots of things is out there. And as always, man, it's just, it's a good morning, man. Hopefully you guys are off to having a good day. And before I move forward into the headlines, got to make sure I big up my people. Make sure everybody is in tune with what's going on, man, because outside of the euphoria in the digital asset space, we all know the world around us not doing too well. And I think, based upon, PCE figures that we're waiting to hear about, stocks are not doing too well right now. And people can be distracted by the idea of profiting off of this transition. In actuality, we're not even in the midst of it yet. So don't get your hopes up too high, because there's still more turbulence coming. But before I move forward, let's get into it. Patriots, forpatriots.com/RTD. Want to always big up my people for supporting the channel, as well as giving you guys opportunity to get your calorie game up, as well as everything else up. So as you guys can see here, forpatriots.com, this is their everyday preparedness deals page. Link is in the description. And of course, they have a variety of items here. I'm not going to harp on the importance of having alternatives outside of the everyday goods and services. So they got food, they got energy, they got everything you need to make sure that you are able to sustain yourself for longer periods of time. If we so happen to run into a cybersecurity issue, blackout, power out, fire, I mean, you name it, they have options for you. So forpatriots.com/RTD, and you can take advantage of the deals they have there and tell them Mike sent you. All right, next one. Get your weight up, folks. Even though right now metals is kind of flatlined, that's intentional. This is all by design. Gold and silver cannot fly, because that will indicate to the rest of the world that the monetary system is absolutely falling, and they don't want that. They would rather have people excited and distracted going towards a digital route, because that's where they want us to go, and that's what's underway right now. So in the meantime, prices of gold and silver are extremely low, and they're definitely going to go higher as things begin to break from the foundation of things. But GSM, rethinking the dollar /GSM, Golden State Mint. If you guys are interested, there's a variety of deals here, silver as well as copper rounds for those who are interested in copper from a collector standpoint. But then again, if you guys want to find out more, links is in the description. And it's these pretty good deals here. I think $2-3 over spot for those who are interested in getting their weight up. And definitely utilizing the link in the description helps the channel out. So appreciate you guys. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's get into some metal activity, man. So right now, silver. I would say silver for the most part is the most undervalued, but then again, it's flat and it's intentional. Like, they are literally trying to make sure that silver and gold do not become the primary target, primary focus. So this is a year's worth of activity here. And so from a high of 26 back in May of last year to a low of March in 23, they've been trading this the futures spot contract manipulative products they've spun has been trading within that $23 an ounce range. Shouldn't be a surprise. It can't break out, or it'll give away what's really happening in the monetary system. So they would rather have the ETFs do much better. Anyway, so just what's happening there. And of course, as of right now, gold is 2,032. And one thing is I want to make sure I continue to remind people is that while retail investors are distracted by these new financial products, Bitcoin ETF and the ETFs that will probably follow all along, central banks that are building out their infrastructure for the digital transition with the CBDCs and stuff like that, that they have as a part of their plan for after the collapse, correction, whatever it is, but they have been running to gold in alarming numbers. And so they're running physical with the idea of spinning off digital products that eventually the world will be forced to accept. Don't get it twisted. And then at that moment, I think we'll find out more about this alternative asset class, i.e., Bitcoin and everything else. Because I do believe, just my gut, because it's created by man, that means that it's fallible, and it will be there will be some type of security breaching, some type of network interruption, or something like that that can be exposed in the future, which will definitely put a lot of people in a very hard place if they're banking on and depending on the digital asset space as the savior of the monetary system, or whatever people label it as. So Bitcoin maximums have a good way of trying to spin off a lot of philosophical and big words to make people believe that Bitcoin is the answer to humanity's biggest problem, when it's not even nowhere near that. But then again, it is a tool. It can be used. If used properly, it can allow you to procure a lot of this potential ones and zeros into your hands. So just something right there. All right, man. Let's get into some headlines. Actually, yeah, let's get into some headlines. So at this current moment, here we go. Let me get to my screen situation going. For those people coming in, definitely show some love. Hit that thumbs up button. But this is as of this morning. This is fresh off the press. And so as of right now, markets aren't, they're not the legacy market, i.e., the stock market, and in particular here, Dow, Nvidia is down a little bit. But then again, it hasn't even really began to, melt up the way that it will. But anyway, Dow falls for a third straight day. Loses 200 points as traders await fresh data this week. So the PCE figures, as well as all the Fed speech and all that other stuff that's coming, is on the horizon. So we'll find out what happens with that. But it says here, a positive surprise on PCE inflation would comfort markets on upcoming Fed funds rate cuts, as a more accommodative monetary policy could also reduce financial risk. This is from Global XF head Morgan. And so once again, PCE inflation figures and the Fed funds rates. Imagine living in a world where everything the markets are subject to and dependent upon happen to come from an entity that are comprised of 12 non-public official elected individuals that sit around a table and discuss what they want to do as far as the Fed funds rate or the elasticity of currency into the market, whether they want to issue more or take away more. Right now, the QE process or QT process is causing a lot of issues. We talked about them, and there's going to be more to come. But think about this. The world's waiting on the response from one individual based upon a meeting of 12 to tell us where the financial markets will head. And so until then, everybody's on pause. But the Bitcoin space with them ETFs led by Larry Fink and BlackRock and Vanguard, Fidelity, and not Vanguard, but Fidelity and everybody else is taking off right now, getting a lot of people excited. And it could be definitely a illusionary trap. So enjoy it if you're part of that train, but then realize that it's all for a much greater purpose beyond what most people are willing to admit. But anyway, let's keep it moving. And speaking of other news, here is something that is not too surprising. Revision. Whenever, let me get myself straight here. Whenever those more than beneficial figures come out showing how, I guess, great the economy is doing from the Fed's standpoint, they're always revised down, whether a lot or little. But no matter what, they always come out with these bogus figures that has the markets usually rally, and then after the fact they revise them down. So it says here, U.S. fourth quarter economic growth revised slightly lower. And what I mean by slightly, it is slightly, but then again, they're always revised downward. It says U.S. economy grew at a solid clip in the fourth quarter amid strong consumer spending. The government confirmed on Wednesday today, but it appears to have lost some speed earlier in the new year. It says gross domestic product increased at a 3.2 annualized rate last quarter, revised slightly down from the previously 3.3 pace. So once again, deficit spending that fuels GDP and is revised down slightly lets us know that every figure we get from this point on, take it with a grain of salt, because they're literally trying to prop this thing up and keep confidence in the markets at all costs. All right, and speaking of which, we can't ignore the Bitcoin euphoria, and so let me touch on that real quick. So as of now, we have the Bitcoin bubbles, the crypto bubbles. And as of now, according to here, the way I measured here, let me get my bubble straight here, 6.8%. And so far on the week, let me see, go back here. This is what it's looking like. This is what it's looking like. So literally over the last week, we went from 50 all the way to 60 and climbing. And based upon recent inflation from the last all-time high, I saw someone post saying that the inflation adjusted all-time high in Bitcoin will be 74,000, I believe. And so at this current pace, we'll probably definitely touch that by next week, given all the demand and the lack of available Bitcoin for consumption at this current moment. So this is what's happening. And let me keep it moving here. I was actually looking at Bitcoin priced in other currencies. And so here we have the Pakistani rupee. And so I think over 30 currencies now are experiencing complete debasement when measured in BTC. And so it's just a matter of the big currencies, i.e. the dollar, the pound, and things of that nature, and the euro following suit. But clearly, and measured in Bitcoin, all the other currencies are failing, just like in a lot of these other currencies as well. When you measure gold as a standard in the fiat version of the currencies, they also are tanking as well. So I just thumb through here and see, just for entertainment's sake, what we have here. We got the Czech Corona. It is approaching an all-time high, as you guys can see here. And feel free in the chat to throw out some of your favorite countries that you might be curious to see. And of course, Argentina. Look at this thing here. This is ridiculous. And imagine, just as a pure speculation and a flight to some sort of safety outside of the peso, if you would have acquired, a Bitcoin down here when it was 6 million pesos to one Bitcoin, rather than as of today being 51 million. Yeah. What else we got here? Let me just for laughing giggles here, we got the Saudi Real. Let's see what we're looking like. So the Saudi Real is not quite at an all-time high. All-time high in Saudi Real is 251,000 reals. And as of now, we're 229. So there's still more room to grow. What else we got here? Let me just see. Let me find a country I don't look at too often. Let me find one. We got all these fiat currencies are intrinsically going to zero, priced in gold or eventually Bitcoin. Let me see here. Let me see. Just for laughing giggles, bear with me. Let's look at a country that we probably don't know nothing about. Here's Djibouti, Djiboutian franc. Djibouti in the eastern hemisphere of Africa continent, the Djiboutian franc. All-time high was 11,900,000 Djibouti francs. And as of right now, it's 10 million Djibouti francs. Never heard of Djibouti francs, but it's a country in Africa. So anyway, just what's happening in the Bitcoin space as of now. Let's get into some other news. So as of now, if you look on social media, Dearborn is trending. And so we had, of course, the primaries here in the state of Michigan. And I'm sure you guys may or may not be following this, but I think this is entertaining just because based upon Biden's lack of support, he's scrambling, trying to get as many votes or gain back as much of his fan base as he can. And he can't quite seem to do that because he's stuck in limbo. It's either you de-escalate the Middle East crisis between Gaza and Israel and you deal with the border and you stop funding, Ukraine, or you run the risk of losing your fan base or whatever lack thereof. And to the point where on the ballot here, I actually looked at the ballot, and the fact they have uncommitted on there amongst two other people that I don't even know who they are lets me know that this political charades it's going to end very bad no matter what. And so here's just some things that are trending on Twitter. And so let me get my screen right here. We have uncommitted got 75% of Dearborn, Michigan votes, a 50-point loss. And so Biden had 23% and uncommitted was 75. So yeah, this is, a lot of people sharing this. So it's very sad to see, but then again, should be expected. When you go woke, you go broke, you lose your fan base. And whenever, what is it? Whatever, there's a biblical quote that comes to mind. Whenever the unrighteous reign, it brings like, I can't think of it. But anyway, you guys get my drift. Okay, what else we got going on here? Let me keep some more articles here. I'm gonna come back to this as well. Here is another little interesting article here. It's kind of like an update on what's happening in China. And so it says here, China's state-backed funds have bought 57 billion of stocks, UBS says. And so we know that based upon the last couple of weeks, the Chinese stock market has been doing too well. And so they've been trying to find ways to prohibit capital flight or speculators dumping Chinese companies, putting further pressure downward on the CSI 300 index. And so it looks like the Chinese have basically had their state-backed funds step in to take up some of that slack on top of the other easing. But it says here, Chinese-backed funds have poured in more than 410 billion yuan or 57 million into offshore shares this year in a bid to prop up the market, according to estimates by UBS Group. Says the Swiss bank based its calculations on excess transactions of 54 Chinese exchange-traded funds. More than 75% of the inflows went into products tracking the benchmark CS 300 index, while another 13 flowed into the mirroring CSI 500 index. So once again, just pivoting funds from over here to over there to make it appear as if things are stable, when in actuality, they're not, because it's not real market activity. It's propped up fake stuff. All right. On to some more things, what's happening in Main Street. So these articles are no particular order. I just grabbed them, put them up here just because they're all things that are relevant towards, covering things from Wall Street all the way down to Main Street and everything in between. And so this was from yesterday, but it says U.S. retailer Macy's to close 150 stores. And so one thing I found interesting about this, they're closing 150 stores throughout a period of 3 years, but they're going to double down on Bloomingdale's and Blue Mercury brands. And so basically open up some other stores that are more high end and shut down some of the Macy's. I'm thinking like at this current moment, just there's no real, market for brick and mortar stores because most shopping is done online. And I mean, how profitable can these stores be when you don't have as much foot traffic? Because all these stores are basically in malls, and malls are shutting down. So it's like it just doesn't make sense from a business standpoint. But then again, you got to shake some things up. You got to do things outside the box, which may even cost you your job at the end of the day. But anyway, Macy's shutting down. Should be surprising, which means more job losses. Keeping it moving here. What else we got here? On to the commercial real estate side of things. This is going to be something that we can't escape, or the banks can't escape. But it says office tower deal for $1 reveals anxiety among longtime buyers. So literally, I see posts of large 100, 200,000 square foot buildings in a variety of cities throughout the country, 70, 80% off. And it's like, man, like to think that people actually took out debt 4 or 5 years ago and spent buku money to now not being able to sell them for anything near that. Think about those losses between, say, for example, let me give some figures here. Let me see there. So there's another building. Let me see. There's the figures here. There's another building I was following. I think it was downtown Chicago, and the building sold in 2016 or 17 for like 90 million or something like that. And literally, they just sold it like this past week or last week for like $20 million. So that $70 million difference is on the books of a regional bank that is taking that loss amongst many other losses. And so you can see how the stress on the banks will only grow regardless of the direction of our economy. Because if they don't go back, we don't get back into a QE type of environment where people are incentivized to take out more debt, people won't be able to hold on to these properties, and therefore losses are going to pile up. Banks is going to close or be merged into the bigger banks, and depositors will ultimately be siphoned into the too big to fail banks like that, like they want to see. So anyway, this is just what's happening. But it says largest Canadian pension fund takes steps to limit office exposure. So the pension funds, this is in Canada, but real quick, it says Canada pension funds have been among the world's most prolific buyers of real estate, starting a revolution that inspired retirement plans around the globe to emulate them. Now the largest of them is taking steps to limit its exposure to the most beleaguered property type office buildings. And so Canadian Pension Fund has done 3 deals at a discounted price, selling its interest in a pair of Vancouver towers a business park in Southern California and redevelopment in Manhattan, while the New York Stake offloaded for an eyebrow-raising price of just $1. The worry is that those deals may set an example of other major markets seeking a way out of turbulent turmoil too. So, yeah, taking $1 for a building. Who's buying it? The big banks, I'm sure. All right, keeping it moving. Peter Schiff is also trending, and so for a variety of reasons. And so I'm not quite sure why Peter Schiff has been so headstrong on just basically being anti-Bitcoin completely. Like, it's one thing, just acknowledge it. But then again, he's like anti-Bitcoin and everything else. So there's been a lot of memes, but he's sharing his thoughts real quick. I want to just share some commentary from him, given the fact that he's been preaching the day that's currently approaching now. And one day he's going to be right. But just last couple of tweets from him, it says, since February 2nd, the GDX is down 11.5%. And that is the gold stock index. It says, however, over the same time period, the gold price has remained unchanged. However, Bitcoin surged by over 40%. Clearly, gold stocks are a major source of funds fueling inflows into the new Bitcoin ETFs. A gold rally should prick the bubble. And so it's okay, Peter, if you say so. And then it's just some more thoughts here. It says, we just got more news confirming that inflation is headed higher, not lower. Q4 PCE rose 3%, exceeding expectations of 2.8%, while in January, trade deficits swelled to $90.2 billion, topping estimates of $88.1 billion. Of note, this time gold actually rose on hotter inflation news. So yeah, just what's happening with little Peter there. What else we got here? So the government shutdown is also trending, and people are actually saying, let it shut down. So here we have just some headlines here. Here's what would be impacted by a partial government shutdown. And so just basically some of the same type thing, just same minor stuff, nothing major. Government's not going to come to a complete halt, but it's amazing how our politicians at this current moment are so pressed for Ukraine, Gaza, and Israel above anything else, to where you can clearly see that they're not operating in the best interest of our country when they can't address the border or the current surge in crime that's happening in our country here due to the unknowns that have been allowed into our country. And so on another note, speaking of unknowns, what is becoming more publicized is the fact that, let me just zoom out here so you guys can see what I see. And so Venezuelan crime is down substantially. But then again, those same people who fled those countries, whether they were prisoners or whatever, they've made their way north, and crime is surging amongst the Venezuelan population here in this country. So here's an article that says Venezuela's violent deaths fall to 22-year low on the migration. So Venezuela and all the other countries in our region, more than likely, suspected that they've opened the gates as far as their jail cells and released a lot of their population that were menaces to society, and they allowed them and they flew them into the U.S. So here we have all types of people from all walks of life here. And, once you give a criminal, especially someone who's probably, murderers type crimes, you give them a free pass in a new land, you give them a debit card, you give them food, and you give them housing. But the amount of crime that's not being reported is a lot higher than what we'll probably hear about, because the mainstream media won't be telling us this, just because it'll make this current administration look that much worse. So this is just some things that, caught my attention today. And so even Elon Musk tweeted about this type of event here, how there's a lot of Venezuelan, murders done in our country here. And yeah, so basically the civil war that they're wanting, it's going to come from, the foreigners clashing with, those born in this country that want to protect and save their own. So, but this is what's happening in the news, man. These are some things that caught my attention. There's a lot more, but I won't bore you guys with that. We'll save it for another live stream. But anyway, let's have a little Q&A, man. Feel free to let me know what's on your radar. What are you guys keeping an eye on outside of the other subjects that were not covered and today? And I would definitely love to, see what's going on. Let me see it. So highlight at Rethinking a Dollar or at rtd.tv, and it'll stand out. And I'll, share my 2 cents on it and go from there. It says silver on sale again. Yeah, silver and gold are definitely going to remain on sale until the monetary system officially breaks, whatever that looks like. Because one thing I'm thinking at this current moment is, with the development of those alternative payment platforms being done out east. We talked about that the other day with what Russia and China and all those other nations are looking to, connect their ledgers together in a sense. They're using digital currencies, their own versions of ones and zeros amongst their banking sector. But then also those same nations are also racing to get gold. And so by doing so, they're going to have a lot of gold in the Eastern Hemisphere, digital representations of currencies for their populace, and then we'll see what happens with the whole Bitcoin and the like digital products that are being spun out. So time will tell, but in the meantime, it's going to be hard to really navigate these waters. So that means gold and silver might stay relatively flat for a much longer period of time. So for those who have hopes and believe that it is, because it is sound money, and want to have some insurance against a failing fiat, you still have abundance of opportunity to be able to acquire metals at a very affordable price compared to what it will be if and when things break. So Jimmy says Italy, Mike, Italy. Jimmy Hat, what's going on in Italy? Real quick. I saw the Italian mainstream media basically poking fun at Biden with all types of memes of him stumbling to the let me see here. Of him stumbling to the podium. And it's sad when a country mainstream media is allowed to poke fun at Biden. Let me see what pops up here. So you type in Italian. Let me see. You type in Italian or Italian Biden meme, or Italy Biden meme, and so this is what you get here. You get a lost, and this is from the other day, but you get Biden of you just walking past the podium, and this is on Italian news over there, or Italian TV skit. So, and there's a couple other ones out here of him walking to the podium and stumbling. Let me see if I can find it. Nope, can't find it. Anyway, all right, so yeah, that's what's happening there. That's what's happening there. What else we got here in the chat? Let me know. It says I haven't seen one illegal immigrant. We have a redneck buffer hillbilly hill. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not that I'm going out looking for him, Ed, but based upon news reports from, I know I saw some from Florida. I think some from Georgia, some from Texas, where the mainstream media is reporting on the lives lost of some ladies, unfortunately, raped and then murdered. And so beyond those stories there, that's all that's given to us. But then once again, it's coming from the mainstream source that tailors everything according to their spin on things. So will we actually find out about how bad things are in that department there? We probably won't. So I won't hold my breath waiting on news like that either. Says RTD, did you listen to Bitcoin President Bukele at CPAC? Big warning of U.S. dollar paper backed by paper. Yes, I did. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I heard and saw some quotes from him. And one thing about that surprises me is that his country is dollarized. So his country has been one of the primary countries that has allowed the USD to remain uh, in the spotlight as the world reserve currency, because El Salvador runs off the dollar, even though they have, Bitcoin infrastructure building out. But even their Bitcoin infrastructure is very minimal. Like, they have more excitement from foreigners moving there that they've incentivized to bring business there and stuff like that than there actually is Bitcoin exchanging hands in El Salvador. So when I was there, went to Bitcoin Beach, and outside of just everybody at Bitcoin Beach that I saw were tourists, were foreigners, and it wasn't much of a local El Salvadorian region where people were actually using Bitcoin. So it's more so like an escape hub from Bitcoin maximalists. That's what it looked like when I was there. But other than that, it was a great time. Had a good time there. Met a lot of nice people, and it's going to be if they can continue this trend, it's going to be very promising for the future. So, but yeah, I am familiar with that. And once again, all the nations that are dollarized, as the dollar goes down, so does your country. So unless you denounce the dollar as your primary currency and either go back to your own currency or go back to your own currency and perhaps peg it to a basket of goods, whether it be natural resources, whether it be gold directly, or to your Bitcoin bonds would be a good way for El Salvador to really shake things up. Because as of right now, he's talking big, but then again, the West ain't really threatened by him because they're allowing him to do this. And so that's just my 2 cents. Jimmy Hass says, okay, it says properties are crazy cheap in Italy. Its history and the monuments are incredible. I like to vacation there soon. Yeah, haven't gone there. Would definitely love to. I do follow some people who are investing in properties over there. And it's kind of like, okay, from a retailer, from a real estate investor standpoint, definitely getting involved and having a diversified portfolio of housing around the country, around the world, could be a viable option. But, given the world we're heading in, where governments will become very restrictive on investors taking advantage of, I guess, investing in old-fashioned form, because as they're looking, this is all my opinion, as they're looking to tokenize every real-world asset, they're going to also want to tokenize housing. And I just got a bad feeling that they're going to try to make it very not worth the while of investors when it comes to real estate. Because I think at the end of the day, government would rather have more of a say-so on housing than have your average mom and Joe owning a large portfolio of properties and being able to, charge whatever rate they want to charge. So I think the government wants that in their hands. So being in real estate in the upcoming 5, 6, 7 years, I think is going to be something that people will probably get away from, because especially in California with, the moratoriums and stuff like that, government is going to favor illegals and, their own policies rather than the actual free market determining what houses are worth according to different demographics and areas and things like that. So, but then again, if that's your thing, do your thing. That's just not me. So I tried that for a minute. Just too much headache for me, man. Housing will follow the commercial or real estate downtrend before we know it. 100%, 100%. Because ultimately, and this is where I always go back to the World Economic Forum's agenda of what they would like to see. They made it clear that you'll own nothing and be happy with it, which lets me know that if the average person will own nothing, who's going to own it all? And somehow, some way, they're going to find a way to funnel it into the hands of private entities or into the government's coffers. And then you have to get permission from them on what you can and can't do with those properties, just because, yeah, we're in the midst of a monetary restructuring. Therefore, things won't make sense. You won't be able to trust your government one bit. And so that's just my little 2 cents there. Bukele country. Carlos says Bukele country has a lot of gold, silver mines, Bitcoin, and dollars. Correct. And that's where they don't talk about the gold and silver mines that are there. And I think that's intentional because they want to keep the focus on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin bonds, which is their product that they formed that has drawn a lot of interest globally and is definitely going to be a financial product that they can benefit from as they've been able to pay down some of their debts and stuff like that. So believe me, the mainstream attention, as well as everything that will be thrown our way in the upcoming weeks and months, will be centered around digital representations of wealth. They want people to be excited about these Bitcoin ETFs and all the ETFs to follow, because it keeps their attention off of gold and silver. They cannot have people going backwards when they're trying to move forward into this technological digital age that they want to ensue. And after this banking fiasco or whatever comes next, then they're going to ramp up the cashless society push, where they're going to say that, ATMs will start restricting how much cash you can withdraw. They're going to have all of the consumer stores and mom and pop shops forced into the digital ID. You got to do everything through their, proof of sale platforms, referring to the fact they won't be accepting cash because you can't deposit cash into your bank anymore if we have a rebranded form of a currency, i.e. the central bank digital currency crap. So you can see, once everything comes to a halt, cash is going to be on the to cancel list next. And that is the last form of physical property that we have in the form of currency, even though it's not ours. It's something that holds a little bit of anonymity and allows you to transact outside the direct eye of our government. And that's something that they don't want to have around any longer. Richard's work says they will control via HOAs and property tax. It says, unfortunately, freeloaders and those with no motivation to do anything greater than just live will be the power force of the government. Yeah, and so I was just listening to some friends of mine talk about how their property taxes in their neck of the woods went up substantially to where it caught them by surprise. And I'm thinking, like, expect more of that as more municipalities are under pressure from store closures, businesses closing, office, spaces being shut down and closing. That's less tax revenue. And mind you, a lot of metropolitan cities, especially Detroit, we went through a bankruptcy, 10 years ago. They got a lot of debt. They're still issuing debt as if they produce something of value other than just taxing the people. And so if tax revenue declines, they're gonna have to make that up. And therefore they're gonna start reassessing housing properties higher so that they can make more tax revenue. And so it's just life is one big tax, is what it seems. From sales tax, property tax, income tax, federal tax, state tax, this tax. Yeah, that's the form of a modern day sanction from our government. So I mentioned that the other day. Rolf says, what do you say here? Could one Bitcoin eventually buy the whole world? I think I think you're being funny there. No, nowhere near that. But then again, this Bitcoin euphoria will definitely transfer wealth, and it will. As I'm going to really stick with the fact that this new product line will be a hyperinflationary fiat escape valve, because once the Fed pivots and central banks start pivoting, they're going to start expanding the monetary base. And where's it going to flow first? Do you think it's going to flow to gold and silver, or is it going to flow to Bitcoin ETF? The ETF first, gold and silver might see some noticeable increases, but it's going to be more so that old money running the safety in Bitcoin ETFs and stuff like that is driven by the younger crowd, and possibly institutions, pension funds, and all the legacy system trying to get all those trillions into the ETF. So, all right, but we have 40 minutes, and I want to check in. Jimmy has the bright you on fire. Appreciate you, man. All right, people. So that's just a way of checking in, give you a quick glance of what's happening in the news, all the things trending, all the things that caught my attention. And we start off with that good news of the day, which is the snippets from the Word of God. Hopefully that charged your spirit this morning to get you started on your day. Go be great. Have a great day, and enjoy everything in front of you. Give your very, very best in all you do, and let the Lord handle the rest. All right, my good people.